Hey guys, I'm Alistair,
And I'm Alseia.
and this is the Absurdium podcast.
Welcome, welcome! Today is a special episode. I said last episode that I'm not gonna count the number of episodes, but as I mentioned before, I will be counting the little mini or big anniversaries of the episodes.
And this is absolutely one of them. It's the first
Yes.
double digits.
Yes, and also it's 10th
Yep.
episode, which is a round number because, it's special.
Yep.
So, yeah. Do you want to introduce the topic for today's?
Yeah, today we're talking
Anniversary?
about birthdays, which kind of coincides with anniversaries in a way.
Yes. 10th episode, birthdays. Exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Very excited.
What did you find? Or I can start.
You could start if you'd like.
Okay, I don't have much to start with, but I feel like reading off my notes because there's just too many traditions and historical little moments to remember. But it's interesting that according to my research, a lot of countries and cultures historically did not celebrate birthdays or only celebrated birthdays of in like ruling families, so like elite usually celebrated
That's
the
kind of what
birthdays.
I found too. Yeah.
Yep. It's not every single country, but majority of the ones that I found
Mm-hmm.
would be mostly held by emperors, kings, pharaohs, because I think one of the first recorded birthdays were in ancient Egypt.
Yep.
Done by pharaohs. And it's interesting that the first woman who celebrated her birthday was Cleopatra.
Mm-hmm.
She threw herself a birthday, but it didn't specify if they celebrated birthday every single year,
Right.
or did they celebrate certain birthdays.
Mm-hmm.
Because according to our continued research, it said that a lot of countries, especially Asian countries, they don't necessarily celebrate the date of your birth, but like the date of the milestones.
Right.
Like you first sitting, like a child sitting up, or like the first steps or first milestone of some sort,
Right.
which is interesting.
Yeah, it is. From what I read about the Egyptians specifically, the stuff that we had, or at least that I saw, it was like, I think it was something to do with some sort of religious research, but that's beside the point. It was not really the birthday of the person that was celebrated, as much as it was something to do with when they became a god. Because in Egyptian culture,
Yeah, the
you
pharaoh
know,
is a god.
yeah, the pharaoh becomes a god at some point, and that was generally the birthday they celebrated.
Probably, I don't know. And in majority of the countries that celebrated the birthdays of some kind of the rulers did not celebrate any ones of lower status. Like for
Right.
example, in Egypt, they did not even record
Mhm.
like the birthdays or the number of people
Right.
in of lower statuses. Anyone outside of the elite or
Yeah.
pharaoh's family did not even get recorded. So
Yeah, it was very much a ruling class, wealthy kind of thing, for sure.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think I read that, for example, in Russian Empire, it was the same thing. They celebrated only the Tsar or the ruling family's birthdays,
Right.
and then it kind of extended towards the elite, and the regular people didn't get to celebrate. Well, not that they didn't get to celebrate, it's more so they didn't throw holidays or like
Right.
birthday parties for themselves. But it's interesting to note that I think what was that? Let me double check the year. I don't want to lie about it, but I think they said that the birthday celebration started in 1676. That's when they started celebrating birthdays of the ruling family.
Gotcha.
And then they didn't actually. It's interesting that until the revolution in Russian Empire, when it fell in 1906, I don't know, 14, 12, 16. Jeez, don't kill me for my bad history.
Yeah, I don't quite remember either.
Until the Russian Empire fell, they didn't celebrate birthdays. They celebrate the saint that they were named after. So they
Right.
have a special word for it too. Won't be able to pronounce it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting that they didn't celebrate like the birthday per se.
Right.
And some
Yeah.
countries still don't really celebrate birthdays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not a thing everywhere.
Yeah, like I've read that again in my notes. um, in some African countries, they do not celebrate just because different tribes, groups, and cultures there don't have uh, um, singular calendar. So a lot of people don't even know the exact date of
Right.
their birthday. So how can you celebrate a date when you don't know the
Right, for
date?
sure. It's kind of something I read about how it's kind of why there's so little knowledge on it back in the days because
Yeah,
it wasn't a tradition until we started
recording
detailed record
time
keeping of
probably.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, but also I would assume that people are like again that makes sense why the ruling and the elite was able to celebrate the birthdays because they probably actually recorded that in some chronicles in some kind of paper
Yeah.
work, whereas like working class and like slaves or any other peasants
Mm-hmm.
didn't even have like why would they care that you were born, I don't know,
Yeah.
March 26th at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, the biggest thing
They
they really
wouldn't
cared about was
care.
like the harvest or the winter
Yeah,
and stuff like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Maybe they would remember the season or like the whatever happening around the date, but not the date itself. So maybe
Yeah.
they will be like, hey, I don't know, but
Mm-hmm.
oh, I know in some countries they don't actually count the they don't really count from the date. They count, oh, you are already 16 winters.
Yeah,
So
right.
counting how many winters the child
Right.
lived. So, and that's why in a lot of Asian countries, they don't count, according to my research. Let me double check. I think in China, they actually didn't celebrate the birthday, but they did celebrate 100 days from the
Mm-hmm.
birth of a child, and
Mm.
they would collect 100 threads from 100 different people
Gotcha.
and make a small amulet
Hmm.
or like a little good luck charm that they would hang around the child's neck as a good luck wish.
Right on. That's an interesting
And
tradition.
interestingly enough, is that I don't think it's in China. It's in another Asian country. I think it's in Korea. I think they changed it too, by the way.
Hmm. I know I read a bit about China too that they would attach birthdays just to Chinese New Year a little bit in a
Yeah,
way.
I think in I forgot which country, but I think it's either South Korea or China. They would add an extra year at the New Year,
Mm-hmm. That makes
so
sense.
everyone kind of got older at the same time,
Right.
lunar New Year.
Yep.
So
Which makes sense in a way. It's kind of a pragmatic approach.
yeah,
Yeah.
because like it doesn't matter when you were born, just add an extra because you
Mhm.
lived what a 15, 20, 40 winters.
Right.
So that makes sense. You were born and then you lived the winter and then or summer or
Yeah.
whatever season you counted. I know in I read it in a lot of books too where they counted like you're already so old, historical books,
Hmm.
like oh you're already so old, you passed your 16 winters, you should like get married.
Right. God.
Interesting, right?
Yeah, times were way different back then.
It's interesting that did you know that the first country that actually started the tradition of oh my god, candles on a cake was Germany.
Really?
Yep,
Interesting.
they had the candle making
Mm-hmm.
you know already there in the country, so that's like how they started. And
Right.
interestingly, they're the first one who actually started to burn candles in general.
Hmm.
But for them it's a little different. They put one extra candle on a cake, and that then the age. So if, for example, if I'm 17, I would have 18.
Gotcha.
So one that extra candle is for good luck.
Hmm. Neat.
And they would keep candles lit around the entire house, and if they burn through, they would need to replace them.
Huh.
And only the birthday person was able to blow them out at the end of the day. and make a wish. So you could not touch the candles until
That's
the
neat.
end of the day.
Right on. I did read that the Germans were also just the first ones to do cakes in general for
Yeah.
birthdays. So,
In Australia, I think I read. I'm not sure if they still do it or not, but it said that they don't use cake. They actually do bread.
interesting.
So basically they sweet bread. They make sweet bread for birthdays.
Huh.
And in a lot of countries that they actually don't receive presents but give presents or prepare things for other people.
That's an interesting concept.
For example, in China they would, or is it in Korea? Oh my God, why am I so? They make rice buns and give them away to people around, and then there is like a belief that the more people you feed, the better your year will be. So
it's kind of a karma thing a little bit, in a way.
I don't know about that. They don't mention.
Fair.
Just like a belief. I don't think it has anything to do with karma. And in Russia, I know that they give also like treats to people on your birthday.
Right on.
Like to celebrate it. I think it's most celebratory rather than believe that your year is gonna be good. It's like I'm sharing my joy with you or something along those lines. I'm not sure.
Interesting.
And then in Denmark, I think, or if it's Denmark, the symbol of every celebratory day is used with a flag. So they would hang a national flag outside and people will know that it's someone's birthday.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is like fascinating.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah, and then in Thailand they would let let me double check. So basically the tradition is that you would let an animal go free. It doesn't mean that they release their pets to freedom, but they would buy like a bird or like a turtle or something, and then tortoise, and then they would just let it go free.
That's neat.
By temples and churches, they would have like the animals being sold just for that particular reason.
It's kind of a positive
spin on it. Yeah,
in a way.
So you're not gifted, and you're just letting an animal free.
Right.
I'm not sure what that means. Oh, and when you release the animal, you make a wish, and they believe that the wish that is made in that way is more likely to come true, which is a nice tradition, to be honest. As long as it's done with not with your house pet, because they're not equipped to survive in the wilderness. Please don't do that.
Yeah, it has to be something that's gonna be able to
don't just
survive
let your pets go. That's not cute. No.
No, but something that's gonna survive. Like that brings the warm and fuzzies a little bit.
Yeah. Maybe you found like an animal that is struggling and you healed it, and then it's time to release it. And if your birthday is like in a week, wait an extra week and release that animal back into where it came from. It's kind of sweet.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I don't mean to contradict you at all, but I actually found that the Greeks started the candle tradition.
Really?
However, they didn't start it on cakes, obviously.
Oh, okay.
But the Greeks, they started the candle thing. It wasn't with like individuals' birthdays, so maybe this is the distinction. But they started it to celebrate like the birthday of the god Artemis.
I feel like that's the difference. Maybe I feel like their celebration was done more religiously.
Right.
And a lot of cultures have candles in religious ceremonies or other celebrations.
Yeah, so...
But that makes sense.
I think they both count probably then.
Well, yeah, but since I feel like since we're talking about personal birthdays, we might count that Germans started the personal birthday celebration, whereas Greeks started more so use of candles from beginning. Right. But again, if you think about it, wax is a very particular kind of material. You couldn't have had it, for example, in Egypt.
Right.
It's a desert. How much flowers or stuff is there for bees to
not many.
I don't know if they would be able to survive there.
Right, yeah, I don't know if they had bees over there at all.
I
So
don't
yeah,
think so. That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
for bees to survive, they need to live someplace where there is greenery,
Mm-hmm.
which is Germany,
Yeah.
Greece. Even though Greece is hot, but at least it's very much
Yeah, it's got
green.
temperate kind of in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's the thing that it needs wax to burn. Candles need specific.
Right.
They're made out of very specific material. Like, you could not substitute that. Unless they used like paper, but paper in the ancient world was not particularly
No, I mean
common either.
maybe you have papyrus or something, but that's probably.
I think papyrus they would not think really to burn it for celebratory uses.
Right.
I know in China they had rice paper,
Mm-hmm.
and they used that quite a lot actually.
Yeah, they really
And they
did.
would even burn it when after someone passed away. They would have paper money that they would
Right.
burn to like send to heaven for and send like money for deceased, so they can be, well equipped and suited and rich
Right.
in the afterlife. So that's why they would burn paper money.
Hmm.
And that was ancient times too. I'm
Right.
talking about, not like modern.
Yeah.
I'm sure they still do the ritual now, but they would actually burn that. And it's
That's
interesting. It implies that they had paper at then,
Right.
but that was, I think, rice paper, and that it was a different kind of paper. It was very, very thin.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they used silk
Right.
to glue the paper on.
Yeah, it
so the
needed some
paper
sort of
didn't-
backing support. Yeah.
It doesn't. It's not like our A4 sheets of paper for printer paper that was like
Right.
thick and sturdy. I mean,
Yeah.
in comparison. So
Yeah. It's also kind of
Yeah.
an interesting thing. Like, I guess interesting what it says about their concept of the afterlife if they think they need money in the afterlife.
well, if you think about it, just like in Egypt, in China, they would bury their emperors and their loved ones with goods.
Right.
as
It's
you-
not a
Like,
rare
for example,
tradition.
that terracotta army, that
Mhm.
was buried with the deceased emperor.
right.
So, assuming that army is going to protect and, fight for the deceased in the afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing they did it with in Egypt. They would, why are we always going? Why are we like in a happy birthday? We went to morbid death again.
I mean,
We went from paper
Birthdays
that's
and-
so innocent, and we just kind of like, death is much more fascinating than any birthday could.
birthdays and deaths are like they're like two sides of the same coin, though. A life that begins.
No,
has to
we're
end.
we're talking about joyous occasions. But I'll finish my thought because I already started it, and I'm sure you're very curious about death, like we mention every single episode.
Mhm.
I don't know how that happens. I
It's
think
a recurring
it's my love for true crime that kind of bleeds into this episode.
Probably.
This is why I'm not true crime. This is why we're not a true crime podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God. Oh my God. So imagine how much research we would need.
Oh my God, that would be so much work. Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so in Egypt, just like in ancient China, and I'm sure there's other countries. I mean, cultures, not countries. Cultures that
Mhm.
did the same thing, where they would bury their whoever with whatever
Right.
they thought might translate back. But in Egypt, morbidly, they would bury pets, concubines,
Mm-hmm.
servants with the deceased pharaoh.
Right.
Sometimes live.
Yeah, live or perfectly healthy.
Yep.
Yeah.
If they would still bury them. That's why. And in China, for example, it's interesting. Emperor would have ton of concubines, ton
Mhm.
of wives, ton of like female
Right.
servants, and they would all need to be sent off to monasteries.
Mm-hmm.
They were not supposed to stay back in palace anymore because like
Right.
their husband deceased. Like, what are they gonna do?
Yeah, they can't go just
Nope.
move on. That's
And
not.
did you know that it was prohibited by sons of the emperor to ever marry any of the concubines because it would be considered incest?
Makes sense in a way.
Yeah, in a
Yeah.
in a convoluted way, it kind of makes sense because.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, like every woman there and every child there knew who their mother was.
Right.
So it's not like it was ever being like, oh, we don't know. It's not like a communal raising. They
Right.
were
Yeah.
very specific because the wives would fight for the power to make sure to try and put their sons
Yeah.
up the throne
It
so
was
they
never.
could stay in power too. I mean,
It was never something in question, but at
no,
the
no,
same
no,
time,
no.
it still kind of makes
I mean,
sense.
I'm sure there were still things like one woman stealing another's child because her past or something of those lines, but it would still like be very clear who the mother, the parent was. So, but at the same time, it makes sense. You never knew who the emperor slept with, and it's kind of like, I suppose, was kind of gross to them
Yeah.
to marry someone who your father might have touched.
Yeah. That doesn't fill me with joy. That's for damn sure.
Yeah,
So.
which is fascinating. Did you know? It's not about death, so don't freak out. Did you know that the most famous Chinese figure, and I'm speaking that from a Chinese drama I watch, I'm sure it's not even like perfectly correct. So if I'm wrong, please do
Hey,
correct
if
me.
it's
I
on
don't want to.
TV, it's trustworthy, right?
Absolutely. TV is so trustworthy. We could never doubt it. Do never, never ever doubt TV and what they say. But basically, what from what I've learned from the Chinese drama and very tiny research I did, is that the most famous female emperor, not the Empress Dowager or anything like that. Like she put herself on the seat of the emperor,
Right.
and on her feet, no one ever before or after done that the same thing
Mm-hmm.
except her. She married the emperor very very young. I mean, she became her concubine, his concubine, and somehow she climbed up the ranks. And then when he passed, she was obviously sent off to the monastery. But the prince,
Mm-hmm.
the son of that emperor, fell in love with her.
Of
I
course.
think while he was the emperor was still alive,
Hmm.
and he married her and made her his empress.
Right. I feel like you've told me about this one.
Maybe
Yeah, I
maybe
recognize it.
yeah. And then so, and I think they were actually like decently happy together according to.
Hmm.
But then when he passed, she put her son on the other throne. But then he wasn't a good ruler, so she was ruling behind the scene.
Right.
And then she acquired enough political clout and power to actually herself sit on a throne, and which was a very very unique deed, and no one else have
Right.
ever done that
Good
after
for
her.
her.
Yep.
Wasn't she in power for like 40 years or something?
She
too?
was in power up until she passed away in like a very old age of 80, 90 years old. Like she was old when she passed.
That's damn impressive.
But the thing is, and actually she was a very good ruler. It was not like a disaster
Right.
during her rule. It was actually very prosperous, and she did like made life of regular people much better.
Huh.
But it's kind of sad that her dynasty didn't stick. I think right after the next generation already was overthrown or something like that.
Right.
Basically, she's tried to establish new dynasty, but her dynasty, but no one from her line was able to actually keep the throne.
Right. Curious to think how the world would be different if that had happened.
I don't think it would be that different.
China maybe would, but yeah, the rest of the world would
No, I
probably
mean,
be...
like, I don't think even China would be that. I feel like when it's not, how would I say? Just because you have a powerful parent, it's like right now oligarchs, the self-made millionaires, and then their children are not that always great. I feel like that's the thing. She made herself, but her children never saw the struggle.
Right.
They kind of was already born into the power, so they didn't know how to handle the power.
Right.
And they probably slacked off in the studies and stuff like that, and just thought it was given for granted.
Right. So. Yeah, that's fair. I could see that. Probably would have normalized out to be the same world either way.
Yeah, but I think the mindset of how to raise a child in power is different than if it's generational.
Right.
So I feel like if the child is born and raised by like an emperor, for example, who was raised by another emperor, like it's, you know,
they learn through the lineage how to behave.
It's kind of like different.
Yeah.
That's why I think there is such a distinct difference between new money and old money. You just see the difference in how
Yeah, they act
different
way
people
differently.
behave.
Yep.
Old money has this something, and new money lacks that. It's not
Mm.
necessarily one is better than the other. It's just the way people think and
Right.
how they behave and how they view
Yeah.
and value different things.
And new money will eventually become old money if it survives and
If
be
it
the same way.
survives, but that's the thing.
Initially, it is.
But that's the thing. Old money knows how to instill the values.
Mm-hmm.
The new money does not yet know how to instill the because they're so busy.
Yep.
They sometimes they don't have time,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe they just teach different things.
Yeah,
just
because
different.
they're still busy figuring everything out as
Yeah.
it comes along. So yeah.
So
that makes sense.
it's very much how will the next generation handle the wealth
Right.
if they will be irresponsible with it and just like blow it all off in whatever way.
Mhm.
Wow, that was a tangent from birthdays. It was supposed to be such a happy topic. Why are we like off our bunkers?
That's what we do.
Another thing is interesting thing that in Turkey they don't celebrate adult birthdays. They
Mm.
only celebrate children's birthdays.
That kind of makes sense in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
Age means so much more as a kid.
but that's the thing. Even right now, here in America, we don't really celebrate adult birthday. Well, okay, it's very personal, but I feel
Mhm.
like once you're an adult, you don't put too much thought or care in your birthday because it's not
Yeah.
necessarily an exciting thing because you're
Mhm.
just like, I'm just one more year closer to me being old.
Yeah, you might like hang out with friends or do something, but it's not
but
like
it's
a birthday party in the traditional sense.
no, because when you're a child, you really want to grow up and be like this independent self, not knowing that being independent is not that great.
Yeah, right.
Or being adult is not that exciting.
Adulting is hard. I need an adulter adult to help me
I know,
out.
right? Like, is there an adult here, adult to adult this? I don't know how to function.
Mhm.
And it's a scary thought to think that every adult thinks that way.
Mhm.
Even the adultier adults still think like, I
Right.
need an adult. I don't know
Yeah.
what I'm doing.
I remember mini tangent, but I remember the day that I realized that my parents were just winging it. And that was a scary realization to make, but also kind of put me in a good place mentally in a way, because it's like there's not that much pressure, you know? I don't have to know all these mystical things about how the world works, because nobody really does. So,
I don't know. I remember as a child, I regarded my parents with such like respect because it seemed like they knew everything. Like any question I asked, they had an answer.
Right.
Now my mom asks me questions, and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, you're supposed to be older than me.
Right.
Don't you have infinite wisdom? I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Those instances are scary.
Yeah, it becomes real when your parents ask you question about life decisions or like things like, what
Right.
do you think we should do? And I'm like, I don't know.
I don't remember receiving the qualification for that one.
I'm not an adult. You're adult in this family. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Huh.
And yeah, that's kind of interesting. That makes sense that we throw celebrations for children because they are so eager, so excited, so happy to become that 1 year older. And I feel like that's normal because
Yeah. I was excited for it.
I would love to go back to my childhood and throw myself a party. Well, actually, no. You know what? I would mourn the day. Every year as a child with an adult mind, I would be like,
Oh God, we're
today
getting closer to that
is
again.
the day when I get older again.
One step closer to having to do it all myself again.
It's kind of sad though when adults tell children like, don't be eager to grow up, and every single child will be like, no, you are speaking nonsense,
Right.
auntie, uncle, mother, father, whatever other
I could
adult.
not wait for independence.
And then you reach there and you're like, what the heck?
Wait, that
This
wasn't
is
supposed to happen.
not what we agreed upon.
Right.
This is not how life was supposed to go.
Wait, I need to pay taxes now? I didn't sign up for that.
I mean, I think every single listener that we have, which
Hello.
I'm sure there is a fair share of adults. Maybe not. That's fine. Like the few of you who is an adult and few of you who is a child, that's fine. But every adult probably remembers that as a child, you would think, oh, by this age, I'm gonna have this figure out. I'm gonna have like a house, a family, a car, a dog, a job, a degree, or whatever XYZ you have. That's just the traditional American dream, like house, dog, family. No, wait, house, family, dog. No, wait, house, job, family, dog. No, wait, degree, career, house, family, dog.
Right.
I'm trying to be like, which is appropriate, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Now I'm sitting here old as I am, and I have this plant that I can barely keep alive, and that's about all.
he forgot to mention that he killed the first one. This is
Hey,
the second one.
We weren't going to talk about that.
We never agreed to it.
For what it's worth, I drowned that one, so I was trying, at the very least.
You still killed it.
I was just doing it wrong.
It's very tricky. I still don't know how I'm keeping one of my plants alive, but this one seems to be actually quite healthy.
It's seen some better days, but it's still alive.
I mean, it's green.
Yeah, greenish. This one I've let get a little too dry a couple times, but they bounce back from that better than being underwater. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, yes. And then you reach that age and you're like, I thought what by this age? Like, I just bought myself a coffee and I did not go broke. That's a win in my books.
Right, yeah. Able to afford the avocado toast one more day.
Alive, just for a little bit longer. Which is a joyous occasion that we should celebrate.
Yeah. Every day I wake up, I feel happy that I'm still here.
That's the spirit. That's not depressing at all. Anyways, did you know that in Vietnam they do not celebrate individual holidays or birthdays? They celebrate like a communal holiday that is called Tet. I think I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
I've heard of Tet.
It's like cultural New Year.
Mm-hmm. Huh. Interesting.
And so everyone on that day add another year to their age.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was Vietnam. I think I've heard that Korea does the same thing.
Yeah.
I think they actually abolished that because I know in Korea they counted their birthdays from the moment they were, not from the moment they were born. So from when they were born, they were already like one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they might have counted from the moment they were conceived, and they would include the 9 months they were being carried as being in existence.
Interesting.
And so when they were born, they would be one. And I think they would celebrate 2 birthdays on the New Year, Lunar New Year, and then the day they were born.
Gotcha. Huh. Right on. That's kind of unique.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Also, in some countries, the traditions are not to receive birthdays, birthday gifts, and to give. I think I just mentioned it.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah,
one.
but it's interesting because in some countries they don't allow even like luxurious gifts and only like smaller gifts, or sometimes even just verbal congratulations.
Huh.
So it's interesting how different countries they have different expectations of what is expected to be.
Right.
I think what do you think we have traditionally as Americans, what are our birthday traditions?
We don't really have too many that are American per se. I feel like it's more of a collection of like
I feel like
the cultures we grew up with.
Well, no, I disagree. I think the biggest traditional birthday that we throw or people give themselves are 21st birthday.
Oh, we're talking the specific number?
No, not necessarily. I'm just saying like anything. Okay. Because in America, as I don't know how many people know if you're listening from the outside of the country, but 21 is the legal age to drink.
Right.
So a lot of people throw big parties for their 21st birthday because that's the day they're legally allowed to go to bars, restaurants, order themselves drinks legally. So I think that's the biggest one for sure as a tradition and expectation that on your 21st birthday you're throwing something. And then again, 30th birthdays are usually big too because you're exiting your 20s into from young adult to just an adult.
Right.
I think that's an expectation too.
Yeah, that's fair.
Even 18 is not as big as 21, for example, because at 18 you're not that. It's not as big of a date. You're just kind of like, okay.
You're legally an adult, but the amount of things you can now do hasn't really changed all that much.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you can maybe, like, you can go live on your own. If you want to, you can join the army. Woo.
But you cannot drink,
So,
you cannot rent a car, you cannot even
hmm
sometimes rent a hotel either,
right.
right?
No, you can't for sure. I mean, that might depend on the state, but me and a buddy went down to Texas once on a road trip, and he went in to rent a hotel, but he was still only 20, and I
Mm-hmm.
had to go in and show him my license because
Oh,
luckily I was 21, because otherwise we would have been sleeping in the car. But
yeah.
yeah,
Which is kind of like why not make a legal adult age at 21 at that point because
yeah,
18 seems kind of useless.
right.
I was not happy to turn 18, nor was I happy to turn 21.
Fair enough.
So, but
Hmm.
it's interesting how, and then in America, I feel like our traditions is very much celebrate with friends.
Yeah, it really
And
is.
presents are received, not
Yep.
given. So no one expects you to give anything to anyone.
Mhm.
You are supposed to be the receiver, and that's it.
Yep, you receive gifts.
Yep.
Someone makes you a cake.
Well, you probably make yourself a cake, no?
I make myself a cake, but
Well, I
sometimes
mean, you
depending
buy
on
a
where,
cake.
yeah. I mean, it depends on the family really, or the
I
friends.
suppose.
Yeah, not everyone buys a cake, but not everyone doesn't. So, yeah.
I suppose, like in my family, we do not. I don't really celebrate my birthdays very often. I celebrate as a child because obviously as a child you
Right.
kind of want to, and I had way more friends as a child because
Mhm.
friendships were so much easier, and
Yes,
also you
they
just
really
invite
are.
your classmates and they just show up and then you have fun.
Mhm.
Uh, but
Except for when your
now
birthday's on a holiday and then they don't. Ask me
I'm
how I know.
lucky. My birthday was during school year, so
Mhm.
it was easier to invite people
Yeah.
on the weekend and enjoy that. But
Mhm.
I feel like in our family we only order things that people like. For
Mm.
example, I don't like cake,
Yeah.
so I didn't order myself a cake for my birthday. I went off and went to a bakery and ordered myself like a tart,
Mhm.
and that was my birthday. And I didn't really have any candles or anything. I just literally got myself a tart, and my mom gave me flowers, and my brother gave me candies, and that was it.
Right. Which is perfectly fine. Once you get older, it's like a birthday's just a day to treat yourself more than anything.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I took a day off from work. That was my birthday to myself. A
Mhm.
birthday present to myself because I was like, listen,
right.
I shouldn't have done that because I returned back and everything was on freaking fire and everything was super busy. And I'm like, why did I was not present for that day?
Look at the flip side though. If that 4 day week was a 5 day week, you would have felt even worse.
Oh
So,
my god,
hmm
no.
realistically, you should have taken 2 days off.
Listen, I
Mhm.
did not want to deal with the fallout.
Right. Yeah. Fair.
One day was plenty at that point. It was too much. I shouldn't have left because at least I could have, overseen whatever was happening.
Right.
And I still cannot forget that there was two things. That one thing was still missing.
hmm
Two. Well,
Yeah. Plenty of things missing.
anyways.
Yeah.
And what other?
Mhm.
Well, why don't you share what you found out while I'm still trying to go through stuff that
Right
I
on.
didn't mention before?
I read a bit about how back to like the Greeks and Egypt,
Mm-hmm.
they both kind of had similar mindsets to it, that a lot of times birthday celebrations were kind of a form of protection in a way,
Mm-hmm.
because they believed that days of major change, of which a birthday is definitely a day, especially the first one, they are a kind of a gateway for evil spirits in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So they would have birthday traditions where they kind of made offerings to the gods and kind of asked for protection from said evil spirits a bit, which is kind of,
Was the personal or communal?
I think it was personal, because it's very much the individual's day of change. So
But would they do it an individual birthday or was it a communal day where they individually did things?
I don't think there's anything specific to that.
Okay.
And yeah, it's implied that it's a birthday, which makes me think that it is the individual, but it's
We're
not
talking about Greek,
specified.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Greek
then you
and
mentioned that in Greece they had this candle celebration for the birthday of the god Artemis?
Right, yeah, Artemis.
Yeah, the god of light actually. No, Apollo was god of light. No, I don't remember. I don't know my gods there. I'm not Greek.
Yeah.
But it would make sense if they went on that day and
Mhm.
asked for protection, but not individually. But I don't know. I mean, I
Yeah,
haven't
it's-
actually read anything about Greece.
Yeah, I did not find anything specific detailing neither here nor there about that one specifically. So,
Oh, another thing, very interesting thing, not about Greek or Egypt, but in Mexico and Canada, they would actually kind of make the birthday person messy. So
mm,
in Mexico, for example, they would crack eggs and put flour on the person, and in Canada, they would like splash oil
interesting.
on them, or yeah.
Huh, that's kind of funny.
Well, like the not splash oil, but like mark the noses with oil,
Right.
like protecting from like whatever
Huh, that's kind of
evil
cute.
eye or something like that.
Right.
And oh, another thing about China is that on birthdays, they would need to eat a very long noodle, very long noodles,
Hmm.
and it's believed to you could not cut them or bite them off. You need to like fully the entire length of it, because if it's believed that if you cut or bite off or somehow else shorten the noodles or artificially shorten them,
Mm-hmm.
that you are shortening your lifespan or your luck. So you're supposed.
Interesting.
That's I think they do it even outside of birthdays. I think they still try to eat the entire thing
Huh.
in one go.
Huh.
But
That's interesting. That'd be kind of difficult depending on how long the noodle is.
they just know how to eat their noodles.
That's fair, yeah. Guess you just inhale the thing or what?
Also, another thing is that it said that some Chinese people don't really like that tradition about the noodles. They
Mm.
prefer the Western cake
Mm.
rather than the noodles, but they still follow the noodles because they still have the belief that they want to live longer life, so they need to eat those really long noodles.
Right. Fair.
I can see why someone might not like it because it might be tedious to like try and
Mm-hmm.
eat that noodles.
Yeah, and you're kind of asking for
But
trouble in a way too.
if you accidentally, I can see that I would probably start crying, and if I believe that my life will be shortened if I accidentally bit it off too
Mm-hmm.
soon, and I accidentally did that, and it's just
Right.
like, or it's God forbid it on its own separated,
Right, which absolutely can happen.
and you're like, oh my God, gods are saying I will
Yeah.
die young.
That would almost be seen as a worse omen, one would
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's terrifying.
Yikes.
Oh, Australia, it's not actually sweet bread, it's just regular white bread, and they would put butter on it, and then they would put colorful sugar,
Hmm.
and it's like a magical bread or something instead
Interesting.
of cake, which is fascinating. I
Yeah.
did not know about that.
That's very Australian in a way.
And then in Britain, they put a gold coin in the cake, and it
Mhm.
said whoever get the piece with the gold coin is gonna be having luck and
Huh.
prosperity during the year.
That's kind
So
of neat.
not necessarily the birthday person, but anyone who gets the piece of that cake.
Right. That's neat. Speaking of Britain,
Mm.
and extends to any nations that are in the British Commonwealth. Do you know that the royal family will actually send a certified letter to anyone who turns 100 or 105?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the world?
In a British Commonwealth nation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is, I don't know, that's still like half the world at this point, right?
I don't know.
I want to
Yeah.
say that's like,
Not America though.
yeah, well, yeah, luckily, yeah, we did the whole T thing, but like Canada still is.
Well, I suppose.
So I can't remember if Australia. I feel like Australia kicked that finally.
I don't know. I don't know.
Huh.
It's a little murky when you think about it,
It
because
kinda is.
it's not as important, I think, nowadays. But
Right.
before, obviously, it would be very much of
Mhm.
essence who your country is being ruled by,
Yeah,
even out like distantly.
but now it's kind of
Nowadays, it's
just
very much like
on paper.
just a kind of, well, we don't know. We
Mm,
don't know. We don't know how that all works.
Yeah,
Maybe
I mean,
there's like tax that Britain has on the country
right.
or not. I don't actually know. It's an
Yeah.
interesting topic.
That could be something to look
Maybe
into.
I will probably Google it on my own.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like Canada doesn't have the British government as its government, so
Yeah.
but they have the British Prime Minister, no, the British King, Queen on their currency. King now, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, and in Brazil, I actually know that from a really sweet Instagram reel. But in Brazil, it's a tradition to give the first slice of cake to your most treasured person in the family.
That's cool.
Usually it's parents, and then parents like give the next piece to you.
Right on.
So it's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a little.
I don't know. I think traditions are really fun if you think about that.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all so unique. They really vary around the world. But then some of them are really similar in very different places, it can be, which is also
Well,
interesting.
it's well, if you think about it, people, if even if they didn't celebrate individual birthdays on a date, if you think about it, your age is very important, and that because again, it would define when you can get married, when you can start like sort of work or
Right.
do anything really. So
Mm-hmm.
I could see them having some sort of counter going,
Right.
and I can see many people wanted to celebrate that counter because like the further back we go in history, the higher the mortality rate.
Right. Yeah.
So I feel like celebrating the
300.
survival of your child is probably a big deal because your
Right.
child survived another year of whatever.
Yeah, same as like 300 years ago. 50 meant a lot more than it does now.
Yeah.
For sure. No.
And our boo Aristotle, for example, lived to be died when he was 80, 90,
Something like that.
70, 80, or something like pretty old. But
Which is
imagine
really
that
impressive.
he lived more than 2,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And
we're in 2024. He an additional 300 years on top of it, so 2,300 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, about 2,300 years ago he lived. 2,300 years ago.
And he made it that long.
What?
Yeah.
And he lived until 70, 80. It speaks a lot about the culture that he lived in.
Right. They were really advanced for their time, for sure.
Yeah, he lived in Greece, right? Which
I think so.
yeah, so it's Greek.
Yep.
Which means they had really good hygiene. They took baths. They had public baths.
Right.
So they took care of themselves outside of, for example, like in Europe.
Yeah, I
They
remember
didn't
this
really
topic.
do that.
Yeah.
At least in medieval times, which was within the last
Right.
1500.
Right. What was the reasoning behind that again? They found it
Oh,
unsanitary because the water was so dirty or something?
No. I think they believed that. I think I forgot that already. My brain is kind of shut down. It's in the birthday topic. I'm like, oh, celebrations, yay! I don't want to think about dirty water and people not bathing.
Yeah, that's fair. Can't fault you there.
But yeah, they didn't wash. They didn't take baths. They would use wet cloths to kind of wipe themselves.
Right.
But they would not take proper baths because they believe that. I think you're right. I think they believe that water is unclean, and that's how you kind of wash out the blessings of the god or whatever. I don't know.
Huh. At least they were doing something, but that still kind of irks me.
I mean, everything you should know is that they use perfume to cover the smell of unclean body, which is gross.
Yeah. Very.
Which is gross. Really, really gross. Anyways, birthdays.
Yeah.
Also, it's interesting that in a lot of Asian countries, they give money on their birthdays.
Right.
Not presents, but money.
Huh. I like money.
I like money too, but in Russia, I think it's believed that giving money or gift cards on birthday is very impersonal and lazy. Like you do not care enough about the person,
Right.
so you just give away something easy.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's very impersonal.
I think here it's also kind of like a little bit impersonal when you give a gift card.
It's a little in between here. I think it's less frowned upon, but it's still not.
It's still kind of like gift card. It implies that you don't know a person enough to give them something more personal. Because a gift usually in majority of the countries I feel like is more personal.
Yeah.
Like you gift something, unless obviously different cultures have different things, but I feel like
Right.
here in modern Western culture we believe the gifts are more personal. Like you give them because you care about the person and you wish to make them happy, so you give them something that they would like.
Right.
But if you give them money or gift card, it's just kind of like, I know it's going to be useful, but
It's not quite the same.
it's not quite the same as like, I don't know.
Unless someone asks for it, which is maybe not super kosher, but I was that kid that asked for money. Because oftentimes what I wanted was video games, but I just want to come out and say it. So, or like I wanted, a prepaid card to just buy things online
Well, I
or
mean,
something. So,
I feel like an adult, you sometimes think like, well, I'm not sure. Well, if you think, for example, I'm thinking about giving my mom a gift card to a store to like upgrade her wardrobe, buy more new clothes, because she doesn't always remember to actually like update her wardrobe.
right.
And so that's a bit impersonal, but at the same time, I'm like, I cannot buy her a item of clothing.
Right. She needs to try it on.
I want her to try it and like it, so I need to buy.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to provide her with money to do that.
Right. Yeah. I guess the alternative would be that you go shopping with her and you're just there to foot the bill. But like,
Yeah,
I
that could be
think
too.
I think in that instance it's probably perfectly fine.
Yeah, I mean,
Just-
it's obviously very much depends on like the relationship with the person and like how comfortable you giving that, how comfortable you receiving that. I would I would get a little bit sad if my mom or someone close to me gave me a gift card.
Mhm.
It really depends. Like I know someone from my family gifted me coffee gift card to get coffee, which I really appreciated. Like because they
Right.
don't know me very well, but
Mhm.
they know that I like an occasional cup of coffee
Yep.
from a coffee shop, so they gifted me a gift card to the coffee shop that I visit most often.
Right. I think that's adequate for.
Yeah, I think for a someone
someone who doesn't.
someone
know you
who's
that
not too close but close enough to know like your preferences, it's decent.
well. Yeah.
The-
Better than nothing for sure.
yeah, but
So.
again, I'm not saying that gifting money or gift card is bad. By no means, don't misunderstand that.
Yeah.
Please do what feels right. If you think that's the most appropriate thing, that's great. I think my brother wouldn't be too mad either.
Mhm.
But I just know that when you're expecting a gift, you want an element of surprise. You want to kind of be like, oh, what are they gonna gift me?
Right. Yeah.
And when you get money or gift card, it's kind of takes away from that excitement because it's kind of like, oh,
Yeah, it's not as much of a
surprise. It's just like, oh, here's a gift card, and you're like, cool,
Yeah.
free money, that's awesome. But then at
Yeah.
the same time, you feel a little disappointed that you
Mhm.
did not receive like an item,
Yeah, it takes away from the occasion a little.
kind of a little
Yeah.
bit. So I don't know.
Huh.
That's why it's a surprise, right?
Right.
Surprises are nice when they're nice. Wow,
Yeah.
that's not sound awful at all. Surprises are pleasant when they're actually genuinely nice.
Right. That makes more sense. Yeah.
Oh my god, nice is nice. What?
I mean, you're not wrong, but.
I mean, listen, the chosen vocabulary was not the correct one.
Mhm. Fair.
I think I exhausted my little fact thingy.
I got one for you.
Okay,
When do you think is the most common birth date in the United States?
September,
Close.
October.
Early October. October 5th, technically, but I feel like that's too specific. So.
I'm not surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Holidays, winter holidays.
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
I mean, if you think about it, in that sense, the most uncommon birthdays would be spring.
Mm-hmm. May 22nd is what it says here. So, right around there.
Because, like, obviously, you would think that people celebrate the holidays, especially like Valentine's Day. Oh my God, how many
Mhm.
babies were born like 9 months after
Yeah,
February 14th, which would be December?
pretty much.
No,
I
no.
think. No,
November.
November, yeah.
October,
which is-
November.
Yeah, that lands right around
Like,
in
so
there.
basically, fall birthdays are the most common one because that's when New Year, Christmas,
Mhm.
Valentine's,
Yeah,
kind of like the whole shebang of, well, also Thanksgiving, and that falls into August.
yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a bit of the hot zone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
From beginning of August to the end of like the beginning of December, I think that's like the common
Mm-hmm.
bunch of stuff because that's when the holidays are.
Right.
Or March or April,
Mhm.
July 4th.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But again, I don't think July 4th is that kind of celebratory.
Yeah, it's probably second in line maybe, but it's not.
Yeah.
Eh,
But also, if you think about it,
yeah.
Um, maybe July 4th. July 4th only is applicable in America.
This is
Whereas
true.
New Year and Valentine's Day are mostly across the entire world,
Mm-hmm.
with exceptions of like very specific countries. Maybe like in India they don't celebrate Valentine's Day, and maybe some in some countries in Africa they don't do that either.
Right.
But I feel like Asia, I'm sure China and Korea and Japan celebrate Valentine's Day, because I know that they certainly celebrate it in Japan, because how many animes
All of them. Every
cover
slice of life. Yep.
every slice of life we've seen
It's
covers
usually like the
Valentine's Day,
6th or 7th
and then the
episode.
White Day
Mm-hmm.
after Valentine's Day, where women return the gifts.
Yep. Yep.
Whole drama around that time. So like we know for sure that in Asia they celebrate that to some degree. So
Mm-hmm.
and New Year, even though maybe they don't celebrate the calendar New Year, they still celebrate Lunar New Year, which
Right.
still happens in the winter.
Yep. Yeah, it still lines up for the most
So it's
part.
kind of like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Which that makes Libras, Virgos, and Scorpios the most common astrological signs.
Yeah. Interesting.
Well, because those are
Right. Yeah, they line up.
full. Because wow, I hate.
Oh no. You okay?
It's fine. But yeah, it's interesting how different things are in different countries. How different dates of most common birthdays are,
Right.
according to maybe holidays in different countries. Because if we think about it, that in America we have July 4th, and there's Memorial Day and whatever, or St. Patty's.
Yeah.
Oh my God, how many mistakes are made on St. Patty's?
Oh my.
Because
I don't even wanna think
if
about
you
that one.
want to choose and pick one day where people get really drunk, it's certainly St. Patty's.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a night full of good, bad times.
Yeah.
Or bad, good times, I guess. I don't know.
Just fun times
Mm-hmm.
with consequences.
Right. Huh. Did you know that the Romans are considered to be the first to celebrate the common man's birthday?
Oh, really?
Yeah. They were the first ones to celebrate. Typically, it was only within like family units or however you want to refer to it. But they were generally the first ones to kind of keep track of it just for the average person.
I had no idea.
Yeah. And then even the government would keep track of it for like famous citizens, which is obviously much different than a ruler or a god. They're still pretty low
Yeah.
compared to them, but they would have like special public birthdays for famous citizens.
That's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of sad that we didn't find a reason and a approximate time when people started celebrating their personal birthdays, and when they start recording the days of the birthday, like specific dates, because
Right.
obviously we already covered the fact that people would have general idea when they're born.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, when the flowers are blooming. Certain flowers are bloom in certain time. Like right now, around springtime when we're doing like tulips,
Right.
and later there will be peonies and other flowers, and like violets and stuff like that, and fruit and other flower trees are gonna start blooming. So people would probably get that, and maybe if you're born in the fall, you will be like, oh, that's when the crops are being gathered,
Right.
or stuff like that, or like the first snow, which is typically around December, depending on where you are born, November, December.
Right.
So it's kind of like easier to
Mm-hmm.
be like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
which makes it interesting, like how it's interesting to know or find out how different cultures and different times recorded time,
Right.
and how they counted time too.
Yeah. And it's like, even if they did record time, sometimes they still didn't care about the birthdays. Not even from just a cultural perspective, but just like, they just didn't. Like, I read in the US, it wasn't really a tradition to even celebrate birthdays until like the 1930s. And we absolutely had accurate calendars and record keeping long before that.
I mean,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
it's interesting, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like majority of holidays, and as sucks it to say, are commercialized.
No, they
Even
absolutely are.
birthdays. I I think birthdays started to be more celebrated because it's commercially.
Yeah, it's the idea of getting all the gifts.
Yeah, you're
really gets
kind of
people
like
riled up.
the economy is boosted by you celebrating anything for that matter. That's
Yeah.
why they throw such big. It's such a big deal to like gift something on Valentine's Day. That's why we have ton of stuff for Easter
Right, because there's a whole industry behind it looking
or
for your money.
Christmas, Thanksgiving, Labor Day, 4th of July. All that stuff is being sold. So I feel like they capitalize a lot on holidays and especially birthdays as well because expectations
Absolutely.
are. So I feel like no one really cared because there was nothing to gain out of it. There was no reason. I mean, you could be like, yay, 1 year alive.
Right.
But there was no gain for the society to get from you. There was no reason. I mean,
Yeah.
unless
it
you're
was
sharing food or somehow giving back to the
right.
community, then it's more interesting because someone is getting something out of celebrating you.
Right.
Because people are at their cores are pretty selfish beings, and it's
absolutely.
nothing bad, by the way. We all need to make sure to take care of ourselves because if we don't take care of ourselves,
Yeah.
who is gonna take care of?
Yeah, and even
And
if from a selfless perspective, you can't take care of other people if you
if
don't
you're
take
not
care of yourself.
exactly,
So,
and as much as it sucks, not every parent is equipped to be a good parent. Even we all do our best, and we all have our own things, but going on. But certainly not everyone is equipped to be caring for another human being.
right, for sure.
So obviously, if there's nothing to gain, and it doesn't need to be bad. I feel like people take it as a bad, like, oh, you're so selfish. You want to like always gain something. I'm like, no, it's not necessarily that. It's more so like, why would it be bad? Why would
Right.
it be bad to make sure that you are also like getting
Yeah.
something out of it? It doesn't
Yeah, it
need to be a
shouldn't
bad
be.
side.
Right, for sure. Even if it's just a slice of cake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to be somehow
Mm-hmm.
participating. And again, I think it's participation majority of the time because, okay, you're there to celebrate, but what are you getting out of it? Like, only like truly selfless people would be like, I'm just there to be for you, without anything. I'm just gonna spend time with you.
Right.
Like someone really needs to care about that person to do that.
Yeah, that's
Just
fair.
to be there to hang out with nothing. But usually there's like some kind of food.
Right.
There's some kind of, you know. And obviously right now we do gift giving because there's an expectation that if I gift you something, you probably will gift something back to me too at some point.
There's a bit of reciprocity to it.
Which makes me, do I need to give you a gift on your birthday?
You don't have to if you don't want to. I'd appreciate it. But
That just threw me off. I'm like, oh my god.
for the record, I gave her a gift and it was
Very
bunch of
thoughtful.
Yeah, it was a bunch of old Harry Potter games on a flash drive.
Did you know that you just busted how old I am?
How?
People now can go back and Google
What?
the games, how old they are.
Yeah,
It would show how old I am.
I mean, it wouldn't really. It shows the general generation we are, but it doesn't show your age
No,
specifically.
but generation is enough.
There were people that were 15 years older than us that liked Harry Potter, and people that were 15 years younger that liked Harry Potter.
I suppose. I know my brother doesn't like Harry Potter.
Yeah, well, your brother's wrong.
I know. I know. Yeah, that game. That game. I didn't have internet when I was growing up, so I like just the place where I grew up. We didn't have really good connection, so the internet was really slow. So playing anything online was impossible. Like you had to get a CD or DVD of it,
Right.
either
yeah.
to watch or to play. So it's kind of like, well, those games were in the CD, so you just kind of get what you have. Which I
Pretty
totally busted myself right now because CDs and DVDs were used only at a certain point of time, which is fine. I won't say my age, and we won't reveal it, but.
I feel like we've already probably laid enough breadcrumbs.
Well,
for
we
people to
already
have
know that we're not Gen Alphas or Gen Zs.
Yeah.
Like, at least if we are Gen Zs, we're the oldest Gen Z, for sure.
Yeah.
So, wow, I just dug my
Would you like
my
a shovel?
grave even deeper. Anyways, let's maybe cut this out later. I don't want to
No.
post myself like that.
It's staying in, sorry.
Yeah, but I wonder, what other very unique little traditions that are not we could not find. I wonder like if our listeners will share like unique traditions that maybe are just family traditions or their cultural traditions or just traditions from the past of their culture or something.
Right.
It would be lovely to read that because I
Mhm.
it's always interesting to learn about other cultures and how, or maybe just family units and people how they
Right.
choose to celebrate anything,
Yeah.
not
Yeah. If
only
you got something
birthdays.
special you do, please let us know.
Yeah,
We'd love to read it.
absolutely. I know some families um, go out, do something together instead of celebrating. Like traditionally with cake and presents, they do go do something. Like they maybe
Right.
go on a hike, or maybe they go play a board game, or they travel, or somehow
Mm-hmm.
celebrate by gaining some kind of experience, which is a lovely way to celebrate anything as well. So
Absolutely. Making new memories.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that's lovely too. Would you, if you could, what kind of tradition would you love to instill for your birthday?
Hmm. I like the idea of going out and doing things more than sitting around and like getting presents and eating cake and whatnot. If it could be a hike, it could be going to see a landmark or some sort of other, unique site, or heck, even go to a museum or something. Like just any kind of going out and learning new things and making memories.
Hmm.
I think would be ideal.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. What would you say?
Um, I think gathering all my friends and going on a beach vacation.
Hey, there you go.
My friends are scattered around the world, so it's a little harder for us to get together
Mm,
ever.
right.
And a lot of my friends don't know each other because they're all different places. But it would be lovely to combine all of my closest friends
Mm-hmm.
and just hang out with them.
Right.
It doesn't even need to be like any specific vacation or presents or anything. It's just literally getting together. Or if I decide to do it individually instead of gathering everyone together, it would be nice to dedicate a month and going from one person to another person
Mm,
to just see them.
that'd be neat too.
I think that's how I would want to celebrate my birthday. It's just like
Yeah.
going from place to place to hang out with people
Right.
that I like.
I've always wanted to get all my scattered friends together too from the different friend groups. I think that'd be really cool. Get them all in one place.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't know. It's maybe I feel like your wishes might change throughout the year and time, depending on
That's
what
fair.
you are looking for more.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, if my mom gifted me like $10 million in the house tomorrow, I would not say no. Be like, here is your late birthday present or early birthday present, depending on the date and the time of the
Right.
year. It would be like really cool if someone be like, hey, here is whatever you ever dreamt of. Take it.
Right.
Which I do not dream of a house, actually.
Yeah. Fair. Not as a birthday gift, anyways.
Apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
House seems to be too much work.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't like
Nice.
yard work.
Nice condo on the 20th floor in some fancy city would be neat.
20th floor.
You don't want a view?
No, I
No?
don't care about the view.
Huh. Fair.
I don't know. I don't think about it that way.
Fair.
I don't know. I feel like the building itself needs to be nice and the area of,
Mm-hmm.
but the view itself doesn't really bother me. As long as I'm not looking into someone else's window,
Right.
I'm okay.
I've always wanted like a nice condo and like
Like a
some beach in
penthouse.
Miami or something.
Ew, no.
As much as I'm not a fan of Florida, just the vibes of being overlooking the palm trees and the beach would be neat.
The idea, certainly, but I would not want to live in Florida, which
Yeah.
actually just blasted us that we do not live in Florida.
Right?
Or on the coast, because
Mm-hmm. Hey, that leaves a lot of options, okay?
yeah, well, we don't live anywhere where palms are,
Right.
for sure, because
It's like 2 states.
that's not true.
Okay, 4.
That's also not true, I think.
I don't know how many there are.
States?
What is, with palm trees?
Oh, okay. I'm like, wait, you don't know how many states there are?
I know there's 43 states, okay?
Oh my god. Alistair. He knows how many states there are, right?
Yeah, it's 52. Oh my god. It's 50. Although, didn't we? Wasn't it Puerto Rico or something that we tried to ratify as a state a while back? I can't remember if that actually happened, but I think it
No,
was. It almost happened.
no.
Huh.
Oh, as a thing, historically thing. I thought about we discussed it, and I'm like, I don't
No,
remember
no, I
us
mean,
ever discussing that.
no,
What?
I mean the country.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I think we almost accepted them as a state or
okay. No,
something.
no, no, no. We did not discuss it, so that's what I was referring to. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't remember us talking about that ever. Anyways,
Yeah.
well, I think this episode is turning out to be shorter because there is not much to cover about birthdays and like anniversaries. Well, actually, anniversaries.
True. It is our
I,
10
it,
episode
it's
anniversary.
no, no, no. I'm not talking about our anniversary. I'm just saying that people in different countries and different cultures celebrate anniversaries too,
Right.
different kinds.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like not
It
quite a
is
birthday,
kinda-
but it's tangentially a birthday.
Kinda, yeah, because something survived that long.
Yeah, it's like
Whether it's a relationship or like an establishment or a
yeah.
rule or whatever survived long enough to
Mm-hmm.
be celebrated.
Right.
I know in some countries they celebrate the number of years people have been married together.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like certain milestones are, celebrated, being like this
Yeah, that's definitely a
date,
thing here.
this date, this date, this date.
Same as like high school graduations, even in a
Oh
way.
yeah, like 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely plenty different variations of birthdays.
Yeah, whatever birthday you're so like. I suppose that's the correct way to think it. It's not necessarily only personal, but like an event too of some sort or like a thing.
Right. Yeah, it can be the birth of a person, the birth of a relationship, the birth of an event, the birth of any entity.
Or ending of something too.
True. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not talking about death. We already did that.
Right.
We already did our death topic. Oh my god, the word just escaped me right mid sentence. Segment. We already did a little death segment. We fulfilled the quota for a morbid part of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
But like the end, for example, high school. High school reunions happen after you finished high school, so the
Yeah.
end of high school.
Right.
Or like college reunions or whatever. Reunions mean that something ended and you're reunited
Mm-hmm.
back.
Yep.
That's lovely too.
Right. Or like Independence Day is the beginning of a new nation, but it was also the end of being
Mhm.
under the control of an old one. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's true. I think the true births are usually like human births or like births, actual physical births, which are true beginnings because there's nothing really. Well, you can count an ending to your parents' single life. I mean, individual life, because then your parent is bound to you by.
Mm-hmm.
That's getting really depressing. I don't want to think
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, it's a little dark. Let's maybe nix that one.
Anyways, I think that concludes our very special happy anniversary episode, the birth of our channel, 10th episode. Hopefully we will think of something much more exciting to talk about on our 100th episode.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm
Well,
sure
we
will.
actually, I hope by that time we can do a Q&A, and that will be
Yeah.
our anniversary episode where we can give us a Q&A.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
The more people we have, the more questions we can answer.
Mm-hmm.
Diverse questions too.
Yeah, we should have plenty by 100.
I hope so. I hope so. People, please
Mm-hmm.
join us.
Yep.
We're fun sometimes when
Join
we're not
us,
morbid.
interact.
When we're not morbid, we're actually kind of fun.
Yeah.
Maybe. Do leave a comment if you think that we suck. That will be also
Mm-hmm.
an opportunity to get better, and maybe
Yeah.
we'll celebrate the end of our belief that we're fun and the beginning of understanding that we suck.
Yeah. If you do tell us we suck, though, say why. Help us improve.
Yeah, please do. maybe that shirt. Someone will not like your shirt.
Hey, I like this shirt.
I didn't say
Don't rag on my
anything.
shirt.
It will be the end of your belief that the shirt is nice. And it will be the birth of the belief that you need to change your color palette. I'm just messing. But anyways, thanks guys for joining and tuning in into our very special anniversary episode on birthdays and
Yep.
very little bits of anniversary talk about anniversary.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for joining.
We'll be there. And remember, be polite, respectful, and open minded. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.